About ready to start. Okay, good evening, and I'll call to order the November 15th regular meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners, and our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance, and after that I'll ask Pastor Josh to come forward with their invocation. So if everyone would please stand for the pledge.
Let us pray. God in heaven, we thank you for another beautiful day and the opportunity to live here on this planet Earth, and especially here in Haywood County. What a blessing it is, and we thank you for it. We ask for your wisdom and guidance this evening as business is done. We pray for the overall well-being and good for the people here in Haywood County. I thank you for these commissioners, what they mean to our county, and the work that they put in to make sure that good things happen here. I pray that you would bless them and all the others that are here. I know that there are needs within this room tonight and the people here, and we just ask that you would provide. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Josh. Okay, our next order of business is public hearing, and we do not have any. And then after that, we have our public comment session. I'll ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and audience members may not address the board at any time during deliberations unless you're recognized by me. And if you would just conclude your comments when the buzzer goes off at 3 minutes, and just finish up your thought. I'm not going to cut you off, but if you would just finish up your thought. So the only person I have signed up to speak tonight is it Noel Peterson? Patterson? Okay. And if you want to wipe the mic off, or there's some sanitizers there, and pull the mic down and kind of speak into it so that we can hear you good.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Noel Pedersen, and I live at 55 Welch Street here in Waynesville. Thank you so much for having this opportunity to speak publicly, and I do appreciate your hard work and diligent efforts to keep this community what it is. So I would like to speak on the subject of the No Bars shelter. I'm a survivor of homelessness. When first arriving at Pathways, the reality of truly having nothing and any family or friends to turn to set in, and my depression got bad. It was hard to think straight, and I was scared. Pathways kept me from sinking deeper into that depression and hopelessness. The first thing they did was find out what my situation was and if I had any intention of changing it. That way they knew if they could help me or not, because you can't help someone who won't help themselves. They handed me a rules and regulations booklet and went over it with me, to which I signed, agreeing to comply. It was simple enough. First thing was to treat everyone with respect, actively pursue a job, attend required classes such as Renting 101 and Finances, AA, do your assigned chores, be in at curfew, and on time for dinner to say grace. They introduced me to so many resources, such as Meridian for mental health support, Via Health, free dental care, free glasses assistance, peer support, just to name a few. With this structure and rules in place, it pushed me to be proactive and regain responsibility for myself. Without knowing it, all of these things were building confidence in me. If this Christian establishment wasn't in place, who knows what would have become of me, broken, depressed, and unmotivated and alone with no guidance. Abiding by Pathways rules helps people to cooperate in society and successfully re-enter their community, contributing in a healthy and lawful manner. So by from what I understand, the no shelters would not have any rules or curfew, and may even supply drug paraphernalia, so that, and by providing drug paraphernalia, that would only enable that individual to do drugs. And it says,
That's okay, go ahead.
okay.
That's okay, you go ahead and finish.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't challenge the individual to as all valuable, fruitful events in life do. It's not easy to pick yourself up from your bootstraps. It requires discipline, perseverance, faith, and humility. And so just what is the end goal to have this no-bar shelter in place? Thank you, and God bless you.
And thank you for having the courage to come up and let us know that what Pathways has done for you. I really appreciate that. It's helped hundreds of people just like you. We appreciate you coming and letting us know. Okay. Would anyone else like to address the board? Okay. Seeing no one, I'll close the public comment session, and we'll move on to constituent concerns. And I think, Frank, you had, I've heard you've been in court today about Beantown, and you can give us an update on that.
Beantown litigation involved a violation of the floodplain ordinance, the health rules, the building code, all kinds of stuff down there. The court issued an order about 45 days ago requiring the cleanup of the site and the removal of the offending debris, unpermitted travel trailers, outdoor showers, all kinds of things. Much of the site had been cleaned up, but there remained a significant portion that wasn't complied with. So I brought an order in front of the Superior Court this morning to show cause why the defendant shouldn't be held in contempt. Contempt is the power of the court to compel compliance with its order. This is an injunction order. That is, the court's order required things to be cleaned up and removed. The court injunction also prohibits locating or placing or allowing to remain there on the site any unpermitted development activities. This is in a floodplain area. This is also, so it's a flood hazard. There's no septic, there's no potable water, and there wasn't safe electrical service to the site. So all of those things were addressed in the court's order. At the hearing this morning, Judge Pope, who was standing in for the resident Superior Court judge, took note that there was substantial activities made to clean the site up. All the travel trailers have been removed. All of the former tenants have been removed. So there's no longer any of those active safety and health hazards on the site. But there still remains some unremoved debris. There remains some unremoved utility building that's there. Anyway, the judge gave the defendant 30 more days to finish the correction of the site, and the defendant in court promised that she'd have it done by then, in fact, before then. So I'd regard the Beantown situation as being 95% resolved as of today. The last travel trailers were just removed over the weekend because the defendant knew that the court hearing was going to be today. So the rest of the things which remain are small, and they're not hazardous at this time. So we're in much better shape than we were. Questions about any of that?
Do you have any questions at all?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate you working on that, Frank. So,
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Okay, let's see, we'll start with Jennifer. Do you have any constituent concerns?
No, I had a question about some vehicles. I think I passed that along to Bryant. And I also had a question about the 3 remaining mobile home, I guess, trailers or whatever was at Beantown. But I'm glad I can tell them that that's been taken care of. That's good news. Thank you.
Okay.
The only thing I wanted to talk about briefly was our mask requirements that we have for the county and whether we need to continue those. I mean, everywhere I go, no one wears masks, and we have mask requirement for the county, and understood why we did that at first, but we've gotten the vaccination rate up. We also know the number of people that have had it, so I didn't know if it was something we need to continue to do for the county buildings to wear a mask inside the county buildings. Now, I understand, like over at the courthouse, when you have district court and there's 150 to 200 people in there, I can understand a mask requirement in there because the people are in close proximity. But just people coming in here to do business, most of our departments, the ones that are deal with the public, are behind a glass or a plastic screen anyway. For it just to be an option, I'm just saying if people want to wear a mask, that's fine, but I don't know that we need to continue to mandate it. If everywhere I went, masks were required, or most places, then I would say okay. But I just wanted to know what the rest of the commissioners thought about that.
Okay.
Or what do you think about it, Brian?
I had the same conversation with Sarah Henderson week before last, and she provided me the same green light, yellow light, red light diagram that the school's using, and that's based on the percent positive of tested, and we're still not in an area where we should go without masks. I think that's at 5.5% positivity rate. Our rate as a county is still closer to, I think, over 8. I'd have to check. We heard that last Friday, so we're sort of following that same approach that the school system is for positivity rate.
So I take that that's a recommendation of still wear masks.
If we're connecting it to the positivity rate, I would say that we need to stay in them for another week or so. But the rate keeps coming down. It's generally very positive. We're moving in the right direction, but we're not to that 5.5% positive rate yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't have a position on it really one way or the other. I just thought it needed to be discussed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. I guess the schools is it is a good model because that gives us a goal. It's just not arbitrary, and then we can do it. And I was just thinking, so a lot of people be coming in paying their taxes, I guess, in the month of December. So maybe that would be a good rule to go by, since that's just my opinion, just thinking out loud. Because I hate masks and I hate wearing them, but and I think when people come in, we don't send them out if they don't have a mask, right? We just, I mean, if they're really adverse to wearing a mask, and they don't have to. But are the employees wearing them all the time, unless somebody's in their office? Is that how you do that, Brian?
That's generally the approach. If you're not, if you can distance, and like myself in my office, but if I'm going to be in the hallway, put it on. I think most employees are following that approach. If you can't distance, and wear the mask.
Right. And we have a policy group call. It's about every week, and sometimes it's every 2 weeks, Kirk. And I think Dr. Jabin and Sarah Henderson were saying that. How would you sum that up, Brian? The last policy call. Is there I guess they're cautiously optimistic, but they want us not to relax, I guess is what she was saying.
I think the cases are now getting more manageable, but we had 6 or 7 deaths last week still yet. I think Sarah was saying this morning a 59-year-old died over the weekend. So the cases aren't nearly the 250 like we were seeing with the surge of Delta. It's much more manageable now, but cautiously optimistic is the way I would describe it as well.
What about any of the other commissioners? Do y'all have an opinion?
Are those guidelines, or those CDC guidelines about what you said, green light, red light, are those CDC guidelines or guidelines that we've developed in the county?
I will have to check. I'm not. It's been a while since I looked at those. I think they are CDC guidelines, but I wouldn't swear to it. I'll find out.
And previously, just tagging on to what Kirk said, previously when we were getting those numbers from the health department, we knew if there was a cluster in a managed care facility or a nursing home or something. Do we have any of that information anymore about where those numbers are coming from? Because they are very low.
We're still reporting clusters. Remember, that's 5 or more in a business or a facility. We haven't reported a cluster in quite a while, so that's positive.
Okay. I think today's numbers, I saw that were about 20. Did I see that 23? Does that sound right?
And Mondays are always higher because you catch the weekend. So.
Yeah, so it's a combination of maybe Saturday and Sunday, or late Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, you're right.
No, just a few comments there. I would agree that I would like to see it more of a choice. You know, if we have a small room where people can't distance, as Mr. Moorhead was saying, then maybe I'd feel better about making it mandatory. But we do have, I think, in most of our offices, I know in the tax office, we've got the shields up, as you were mentioning, so I feel like we're pretty protected, and the vaccinations are up, and several people's had COVID already, so now they've got the antibodies. So like you were saying, Kirk, I know a lot of places that you go into in public, you don't see people wearing them if you go into Lowe's or Walmart or places like that. So I would like to see it a choice, just my personal opinion. I know we listen to our health folks, and they're being a little optimistic because the numbers are still up according to the green light, red light, yellow light scenario, but I personally would like to see it more of a choice.
Well, I would echo the other commissioners, and you know, the thing about this whole thing is it's not a cookie cutter answer for everything. I know you have mass concentrations of people, and I've always been one to respect other people. I mean, if you want me to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. If I see you wearing a mask and you're in close proximity to me, out of respect to you, I'll probably wear one. It's not going to kill me, but I don't like to wear a mask. I've had COVID. A lot of people have had a shot, and they feel like that, you know, that should allow you some freedoms as far as being able to assimilate back into the normal society. But, you know, my father-in-law passed away suddenly here a few weeks ago, and his widow was worried. We had the funeral, and they was probably, I don't know, it was an overwhelming amount of people that came to pay their respects, and I was standing in the receiving line, and after it was all over, and I really hadn't thought about it much, just didn't think about it much. You're bereaved, you're worried, you know, you're heartbroken. And she said, the day after, she said, well, this is going to be a real good test on whether we had a super spreader event or not, because honestly, they're probably wanting 2 or 3% of folks that came through there had a mask on. And that's their choice. I mean, if you want to wear a mask, fine. I'm not going to look down on you. I'm not going to make fun of you. If you don't want to wear one, I'll take care of myself. If I see you coughing, you know, just stay away from me, and I'll stay away from you. But as far as I know, I didn't hear anything from anybody from that funeral where there was a super spreader or there was multiple cases came out of that. So I think, you know, with vaccines, and a lot of people have had it. There has to be a light at the end of the tunnel at some point in time on this thing. And but again, I'm not going to look down on you or belittle you. You want to wear a mask from now on. And some people do, and I found some benefits to it. I do farming, and I see these masks laying in my truck when I'm putting hay up and stuff. I put those things on. It helps me at night. You know, if you ever put up hay in the evening, you lay down to sleep at night, and you cough your head off the rest of the night. And I see somebody back there agreeing with me. But you know, the masks, they've got their place. They help me at the hay barn, and I'm sure they catch some germs. So I think I can echo basically what I'm hearing from everybody else.
Yeah, I did that when I mowed the yard. I was doing that, and I thought people are going to drive by my house, and they're going to think I'm going to get Rona. But it does help you. I'll admit to that. It's hot and uncomfortable, but it does help you. I know, Bobby. Do you have a comment on that? On what the schools are doing? Do you want to come up? Do you mind? Because you're probably more familiar with that. I thought that was a novel idea that y'all are doing.
The school system right now in regards to masks we developed the model in collaboration with Dr. Jabin and Sarah Henderson based on what we felt gave the best opportunity for people not to transmit, which is ultimately 6 cases per 100,000 a day on a rolling average. We're relooking at that model to make sure it's the right one. The one thing that we know from a school system's perspective, and this is my personal opinion now, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but we know that masks are very effective against quarantine. I don't know about anything else, but I know they're very effective against quarantine because if both people have on a mask, then we don't have 85 people from 3 cases quarantined. So we're following that model. We're looking at that model almost weekly at this point with Dr. Jabin and Ms. Henderson to see, do we need to modify that any, or is it where it needs to be? I don't know.
Okay.
Our cases in the school system are way down. We only had like 5 cases cumulative through the weekend in the school system. Maybe 6. I could look if you would like, but it was either 5 or 6. I looked at it before I came, but I didn't count.
Okay. I think that kind of helps Jennifer's question a little bit on what y'all are doing. So
yeah, I don't think it's based on a firm CDC guideline, but based on what the trends have shown to be safe when you reach underneath 6 per 100,000 on a rolling average. I don't think the CDC says one way or the other. Thank you.
okay. Well, thanks, Bobby. I appreciate you coming up. He didn't know I was going to do that. So what do y'all think? You want to just kind of follow the school model?
We can talk about it next time if you want to. We can just,
Okay.
put it 2 weeks off, take a look at the numbers, and decide what we're going to do. I just thought we needed to probably bring it up for discussion. I know a lot of the employees would prefer not to have to wear the mask
Yeah, I agree.
anymore, and it's all about our own personal safety. So we can discuss it next time, see what the numbers are. I want to protect the employees, but then again, also I'm listening to what they're saying as well.
I think we can't govern, I've said this many times, we can't govern to personal responsibility. And if we are mandating, that people wear them, but there's no, if we don't wear them, it's not I just think we're handicapping the folks that, maybe that's a bad term, I think we're punishing the people who are complying, and I think I think it's an overreach, quite frankly. I do. I think, I just don't think that we should be mandating that. I think our numbers are low enough. Our vaccination numbers have come up. We see the numbers from the county that the county has participated in, and we don't have the numbers for general practitioners and pharmacies and things. We also can add those numbers on top of that. I think they said we needed to get to 60 or 70%, and by my math, we're probably there. And that's my opinion. But I think if you want to wear the mask, if you choose to do that, if it's your personal decision, then so be it. You should get to do that as well, with no repercussions.
I think also there's a lot of people who's had COVID, and I'm sitting beside one. I accused him of being a super spreader, but he's been around people that had it and never got it. Then he went and told me that this evening he went and got his blood checked, and he's got antibodies. So there's a lot of people that's had it, don't know they've had it, and there's a lot of people that had it and didn't go to the doctor.
That's true.
So I think our immunity rates may be a little, with vaccinations and with people like this guy, I think it may be a little higher than what we think it
Brandon
is.
Rogers, super spreader.
I was in the truck with him. We went to a landfill visit, I'm telling you, I was flat-backed about 2 days later, and then he's telling me there been around 2 or 3 more people that the same way, and I'm like, you're the guy that spread it. But no, he wasn't. He's got immunity, so I didn't even know he had it. And I know several people that's probably like that.
Yeah.
So
You know, it's again, you go back, and Dr. Jabin's not here, and I know Mr. Dove is, but the comment early on was, we're building the plane while we're flying it. Well, we've been flying this sucker for about 1.5 years. We're learning a lot more. So,
well,
putting
it's frustrating too. I was reading something this weekend that Vermont is the highest vaccinated state, and they're in a spike right now, and nobody can say why. I mean, you know, it's weird. And Europe is having spikes again, and a lot of those states are highly vaccinated. So I don't know. I definitely don't have any answers on it or anything. So go ahead, Brian.
And whatever the board decides, we'll implement. But just wanted to remind you, when we went into the mask thing, and a few things haven't changed on that. One, we have staff shortages. It's hard to provide service with the skeleton crew we have in many cases. If we have folks out sick, it becomes even harder to provide services. And namely, EMS has really been at the forefront of that. And then the other thing is we're self-insured. If wearing a mask prevents hospitalization, it saves us tax dollars. Nobody gets the bill. It comes to the finance office, and we pay it. And hospitalizations are very expensive. I've heard, you know, ICU beds are about $30,000 a day, give or take. So those were a couple of the things that went into the decisions to go back into masks as the Delta numbers started surging. Is it manageable now? We're getting closer, but those were two of the things that it's not just simply to wear masks. It was service delivery and a cost savings.
Those 2 things won't change. Whatever our decision is, those 2 things will still be on that side of the scale.
Those are considerations you have to weigh.
And I appreciate you saying that. I do, and not being argumentative. But if there's not a mask mandate across the county, then when your employees or our employees are in church or the grocery store or wherever, and they're not wearing a mask, it's, you know, they're just having to do it at work. So I get it. I see it, but it's governing personal responsibility again.
Is it okay to wait till next time?
Yeah, well, it's not on the agenda, so we'd have to do a lot of stuff to vote on anything anyway. I wasn't planning on that. I wanted just to have a short discussion and
Way to go, Kurt.
open the door. But so maybe you can decide as chairman whether it should be on the agenda next time.
You can actually put it on there.
Yeah, I could.
You could.
But now I've just announced that he needs to make that decision, I guess.
We'll put it on the agenda next time, and we'll.
But we do know our numbers are coming down, as we've heard. So, you know, a couple of weeks, they may be back down to the green light section.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would think that if we follow the school, and if they change, we should change, because they're keeping up with the numbers a lot more than we are. So that's what I'll base it on, I guess. I like to have something. I'm kind of an evidence guy. I like to base my decision on evidence, not what I think, but what evidence I've got. So, and I tell you, when I read this stuff, like in Vermont, in the European countries, it really frustrates me because I can't get to it's like we can't get there, if you will. It's spiking and we don't know why. And then the cases are fine. So, you know, one minute cases are fine, the next minute they're not. So it's really a frustrating issue, if you will. So, okay, we'll talk about it definitely next time. And the one thing that does bother me, we're going into wintertime, it's getting cold, people are going to be inside, that automatically spreads it. And then you've got people coming into the courthouse. I've seen lines to pay their taxes. So I don't know if we're going to do anything for that. Greg's here, but Greg West, the tax collector. But I thought you did a good job last year on how you did that. I don't know are you thinking about doing it this year? Not really? Okay. So it may just be back to where we've got long lines of folks in there, and that probably wouldn't be a good thing. So, but anyway, that's just something to consider when we talk next time, okay? Okay, Brandon, did you have any constituent concerns?
I've had some. I've joked with Mr. Moorhead in the past that I've got a call center set up on my cell phone, but I've had several that we've addressed already and took care of. The biggest questions I'm getting right now is over the debris pickup still, so we're addressing them as we come to them. And the only other thing, I just wanted to thank Ms. Patterson. I know she stepped out, but it takes a lot of courage to come back to the point that she was and let us know that help that's out there through the Pathway Center does work, and I appreciate that and appreciate where she stands today versus where she was some time ago. So structure helps, that's correct. So just wanted to thank her. I know she's gone now, but maybe she'll get the message. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that needs help from time to time, and I've always been the type of person that's willing to give the help, especially when somebody's wanting it. You know, I feel like that's what we need to do. That's the services that we need to provide if somebody's wanting help to get back on the right track. So that's good to hear. So other than that, that's all I've got.
Okay.
Also, I would like to dispel a rumor around the debris pickup. There was a rumor going around town of Canton this past week that if somebody hadn't filled out the FEMA paperwork, their debris was not going to be picked up. And so I talked to the county manager, and there's no prerequisite for having any type of FEMA paperwork filled out to have your debris picked up from the roadside. You still have to take it out where they can grab it with a knuckle boom. I don't know who started that, but there's nothing to that. And also, speaking of the agenda items, hopefully in the near future, Mr. Rogers and I paid a visit to our old Francis Farm landfill. I think Mr. Francis is going to have that on the agenda soon to give an update on that project, which is something I'm sure it's a milestone that he and others here for years look forward to, closing the chapter on that book. And so it looks good. We took a site visit this afternoon, and hopefully we'll see that on the agenda coming up soon.
Okay. Brian, on the debris pickup, this is like I noticed when I went through Canton yesterday that like at Bethel Christian Academy, there's a lot of debris there, and I know that's probably considered commercial, but it's really a nonprofit, and that's probably why they've not picked it up. But where we've got commercial and nonprofits, is there not a way, and I know FEMA is not going to do it, okay? So, United Way has been given a lot of money. I'm not sure what they're going to do with all of it, but it would seem to me that if we could do that, it would just basically clean up our county, if you will. And I would like to see us, maybe even the county can just do it, What do you think of that? Because it looks really bad. And
internally, we've had those conversations.
Okay.
I've not wanted to have it publicly because I didn't want to let FEMA off the hook. I've been trying to keep pressure onto them, especially the commercial side. We haven't made much headway. I was talking to Commissioner Rogers earlier about that.
Yeah.
If that's something the board wants to do, we can certainly look at it. We will need to develop a pretty good policy and follow it because it can get really expensive really quickly. One of the campgrounds that we've talked about, and I think Chris said there was 65,000 cubic yards of waste, an estimate. That's probably $150,000. So if we get in, it's not for the faint of heart. It's going to be very expensive, and to start picking winners and losers as far as who gets picked up and who doesn't, that's a very slippery slope. I think we probably need to talk to state emergency management, see how it's been handled down east, because I'm sure they've encountered it, come up with a good policy, set aside a pot of money, and try to do as much work as we can. Because, like I said, it could get to, 7 figures is not unreasonable, and that would not be reimbursed. So that if you guys want us to go in that direction, we'll start working on a policy. I would rather still put a little pressure on FEMA to try to help us, because it is in their policy guide that in certain circumstances they will pick up commercial debris. We're not asking for anything outside of what they call the Papa G. It's in that policy guidance, and we've asked for that before we start shouldering it with local dollars.
okay.
Brian, does anybody know in '04 when we had the floods, did FEMA pick up the commercial debris then?
Yeah, probably, Chris is shaking no. And in their own policy guidance, they say commercial enterprises are expected to have insurance to cover this type of destruction. If they don't, then that's why FEMA's not paying for it.
I could understand that, I guess, to a certain point, but if you've got a business that normally wasn't in a flood zone, I mean, I'm talking about those places down on Old Asheville Highway, for example. There's areas down there that got flooded that never have before, so rightfully, they probably didn't think that they needed to have the insurance because of that. So I just don't see it as right, to be straight up, that they're not picking up the commercial debris. So I know that I'd talk to Mr. Moorhead. I'm going to put some pressure downstream, or I shouldn't say downstream, upstream, and see if we can't get something done about that. That's been my conversation with these guys. And if nothing happens, then I think that we ought to do as the chairman suggested, which is what I spoke to him about as well, about the county stepping in and taking care of that, because we need to get that picked up. I mean, it's an eyesore, it's a safety concern, it's hazardous, and not only that, but we as a county need to recover from this tragedy that happened from the floods, and that's just a way of recovering and getting on past this. So I'm okay, you know, if we take it out of our fund balance, or if we look at our solid waste funds that we have, of doing something there. I know I've spoke with Mayor in Canton about it as well, and they're willing to pitch in and help some. But again, I agree with Mr. Moorhead. We need to put some pressure upstream and see if we can't get them to pick it up. So that's my thought.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? I did want to say too, last week was Veterans Day, was on Thursday, and I do want to thank all the veterans that, and I know all the commissioners do too, that gave their time and to serve our country. So, and that's why we're here tonight, and we can do this freely and argue about whatever we need to argue about, or not argue, but talk about. Okay.
Can I just tag on to that?
Yeah.
I was in Canton on Thursday for their veterans program they had at Pisgah High School, and there was a very decorated, and I wish I knew exactly his rank, a very decorated soldier. There were several that spoke, but one in particular spoke, and he spoke about his battalion and being in a firefight in Kuwait, and he lost 20 of his members of that party in a firefight. But unfortunately, when they came home, he's lost an additional 40 to suicide. And so I just want to remind everybody, if you know of a veteran, we have excellent veteran services here in the county, and suicide is a very real reality for folks that come out of our military. And it's like Chairman Inslee said, we are able to enjoy rights and liberties because of those folks who are willing to go to the front lines for us and allow us the opportunity to have meetings and government like we do. And I personally, my dad was in the Air Force, and I want to say thank you to all of the folks who serve today and who have served previously on our behalf. It does not go unnoticed, but again, we have excellent services here in Haywood County, and if anybody needs help or knows of somebody that does, please reach out to somebody.
That's a good point. I spoke to a group too there, and I let them know that we do have a good veterans office here. And then Brandon Wilson, the Mountaineer, did a story on him, and he's a great resource if anybody needs to contact. He's with ABCCM, and he's very good at connecting, because, and my dad's going through that now. It's a maze to try to figure out what services are available to veterans, because you've got to go, they're just so, you've got to fit in different categories, and you've got to know where to go. And it's really, a lot of veterans are older, and it's hard to navigate all that. And the Veterans Office, I know, is helping my dad, who's a veteran. So if anybody needs help, please call the Veterans Office or Brandon Wilson over at ABCCM, and they'll be more than glad to help you all navigate these benefits that you have deserved and ought to be receiving. Okay, we'll move on to administrative agency reports and presentations, and we have Via Health, and we have Shelley here tonight, Shelley Foreman. Welcome, Shelley. Appreciate you coming out.
Welcome. I'm so short I have to pull this down. I can hear myself, so you can hear me, right? I always have a hard time hearing in this room. So thank you for having me tonight. Again, I'm Shelley Foreman. I'm the Community Relations Regional Director for VIA Health, serving the 7 westernmost counties. So I wanted to give you an update tonight and talk to you about an opportunity that we have for your Board of Commissioners. This was a presentation we did for a recent County Commissioner Advisory Board committee. Again, VIA Health is a public agency overseen by the Department of Health and Human Services, and our role is to manage Medicaid and state funds for people with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities. I'm sorry, do I change this or? I'm sorry. So currently, VIA Health serves 22 counties in the western region and foothills of North Carolina. As you can see, and I'm glad this map is in color because I've been to several presentations where this wasn't. So as of this summer, VIA Health was approached by an organization similar to ours in the eastern part of the state called Cardinal Innovations. They had some challenges with counties that were disengaging from them and choosing to go to another LME MCO. And so they approached VIA about working with VIA Health to consolidate with our organization, with VIA Health being the organization would be the surviving entity, and bringing on board 9 of the counties that were in their catchment area. So if you can see by the map, we did accumulate 9 additional counties, are all in the pretty blue color, which goes pretty much through the eastern middle part of the state. So one of the challenges that provided with VIA Health is that we're already very large. And if you look at the governance for VIA Health, we have a board of directors. That board of directors is currently mandated in legislation and defines who the membership will be. We also have a county commissioner advisory board, and I just always want to thank Commissioner Best. She's a great member and participates very actively. Most of our meetings have been virtual, so I hope that's made it easier. And of course, County Manager Moorhead always supports us as well. So in order to be responsive and think about how we could really take on the responsibility for this many counties, our board of directors and our County Commissioner Advisory Board approved a structure that would create 4 regional advisory councils. So if you look, there are 4 regions. Our region, Region 1, is Region A. It's the 7 westernmost counties of North Carolina. And then you can see there are 3 additional regions going across the state. On the next page, you can look at the population breakdown. Region A is the smallest, but we do have a lot, I guess we have geographic dispersity. There's a little chart that shows you the counties that would be in each of the advisory boards and the additional counties that we assumed under the Cardinal Innovations consolidation. So one of the things we had to do with this number of counties is our board had to seek permission from the Department of Health and Human Services to restructure our board to look like what our board and County Commissioner Advisory Board proposed it be, and we have since gotten that permission. So we will still have a board of directors. We also have a Consumer and Family Advisory Council that's made up of people with lived experience. And what we will do is create these 4 regional boards and ask that those boards appoint 2 of their members to the board of directors. So for Region 1, we would like to ask your county, Haywood County, as well as the other 6 counties in the region, to appoint a county commissioner advisory board member or a county commissioner representative. We would also like you to have the opportunity to appoint a second person. That second person should be someone connected with local government. So it could be in the category of another commissioner, if another commissioner is interested. It could be a county manager. It could also be a Health and Human Service Director, DSS Director, Health Director, or a law enforcement officer, so your sheriff or police department, police chief. So once these 4 advisory boards are convened, they will select 2 of their members to serve on our board of directors. That board of directors will also include 4 Consumer and Family Advisory Council members, which they currently do now. Those are people with lived experience. 1 director is already appointed by the Department of Health and Human Services. And then up to 8 at-large members. So there will be 8 at-large seats that will be appointed once each of these advisory groups is formed and appoint their 2 board members. And then we have several other categories of folks who will be sort of non-voting members and there for advising the VIA Health Board. So the reason we're really doing this is to build in sort of a more responsive and closer to the community's ability for these councils to participate. So we really want these advisory councils to come together to not only hear about things impacting VIA, but to also look at like the service system, what are gaps in services, what are regional opportunities. We're hoping that these advisory councils will begin to form in January. We know that boards of commissioners typically make their appointments to boards and reappointments in December. So again, we would ask that between now and this information and your December meeting, that you would look at your 2 appointees. Again, that would be a county commissioner member. It would be the second slot could be a commissioner, county manager, Health and Human Service, Health Department, DSS Director, or LEO. So those would be the folks that would come together in January. And then in January, that group would meet. They would meet at least quarterly. They could meet as often as they want. They can decide where they're going to meet. They can decide if it's virtual, face-to-face, in person, the location. So they'll make all of those determinations as a group. I will staff that board along with other support staff we have from VIA and really getting the process going. So by January, we're hoping that this group can come together and begin looking at making the 2 appointments to the VIA Health Board. So with that, I'll ask you if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions at all?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shelley.
We appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you in December. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Thanks for coming out. Our next item under administrative reports will be Santac environmental update for the White Oak Landfill. We have a municipal coordinator, Ben Johnson, and general manager of Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee, Stephen Slater. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us this evening. Yes, my name is Ben Johnson. I'm going to go through the 2020-2021 White Oak Landfill operation report. So we'll dive right into it. So first, we want to look at the White Oak Landfill annual volume. This is from July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. The total in-county volume was 82,970.79 tons. The total out-of-county volume was 76,333.57 tons, bringing the total combined annual volume, excluding the brush, to 158,926.15 tons. So moving on to the host fee. In Q1, the host fee payment to the county was $24,064.90. In quarter 2 was $18,474.18. In quarter 3, it was $24,908.97. In quarter 4, it was $46,641. bringing the 2020-2021 total host fee to $114,089.05. And the total host fee since inception of the contract is $740,443.13. So the remaining landfill life, the total projected permanent airspace is 9,380,389 cubic yards. The remaining projected permitted airspace is 6,221,988 cubic yards. The cumulative remaining life expectancy as of May 2021, using the long-term utilization factor, is 33 years. Using the 3-year site average is 28.3 years. In the current operating cell, Phase 5A, construction was completed for this cell in late 2020. The cell size is about 6.7 acres. It has a remaining airspace of 573,918 cubic yards. This cell is estimated to be full in February of 2023. Moving on to kind of the landfill aerial, Phase 5A, current operating cell, and kind of future construction. This first map is a map of our construction and fill sequence over the next 5 years, or our 5-year plan. Outlined in red is Phase 5A, where we are currently filling. The area shaded in green is where we anticipate filling in the next 5 years, and the area shaded in blue is construction and fill sequence beyond the next 5 years. So this is year 1 of our 5-year plan. Shaded in red, again, is where we are currently filling today. By the end of 2021, it's projected that we'll consume 222,000 cubic yards in this cell. And then moving on to kind of the final slide, this is year 2 of our 5-year plan. We're filling in 5A and piggybacking off Phase 4. Projected airspace consumed in 2022 is roughly 222,000 cubic yards. The green area is future fill area, or Phase 5B. It's projected that airspace gained in 5B will be a little over 1 million cubic yards. Between the green shaded area and the red shaded area, it's estimated of about 56 months of life between those 2 areas. So at this time, that kind of concludes the presentation. I'll be happy to try and address any questions you all may have.
I'd just like to comment that I'm on the Solid Waste Committee with Commissioner Rogers, and we met with the folks here, their yearly update, and seems like everything's going as planned, and don't see any bumps in the road in the foreseeable future. So it's a very, very good report.
Yeah, just to add a note too, I know that if you look at where we were last year to what we've got left as far as expectancy there at that landfill, it's actually went up some. And Ben, I don't know if you want to tell the other commissioners why that is, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, part of one of the things you can capture in a landfill is settlement. Once waste is added on top of other waste in specific cells, there's settlement over time. You can go back and refill those areas, which ultimately adds to the life of that facility and allows you to kind of capture those additional months or years of that facility, of that cell, excuse me.
I know that that's been a lot of the questions I have gotten over the years. I remember when I was elected in 2016, that was one of the biggest concerns from the constituents, was how much life expectancy we had there. And seems like, you know, every year we have this this meeting, and I feel comfortable, as Commissioner Long said, where we're at now. So I appreciate you guys and your willingness to meet with us every year and keep us up to date. I feel comfortable with it. So
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Let me ask, I was just
Yes,
wondering
sir.
too, so we've had the flood, have you made provisions for that influx of debris?
To be yes, we have.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, we have.
Because I know that's, we talked about it's going to cut down on the life of it a little bit, of the landfill. So, I mean, that's something that's come along that we didn't expect and you didn't expect.
Right.
We got to handle it, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3 of agency reports, we have our WNC Regional DWI Task Force update from Ellen Pitt. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here tonight representing the Western North Carolina Regional DWI Task Force. Some of you may recall that I've represented Mothers Against Drunk Driving in Western North Carolina for the past 18 years, that I'm one of the three most senior members of the Western North Carolina Regional DWI Task Force for 16 years, and I recently was appointed in May to the North Carolina statewide DWI Task Force by the Director of the Governor's Highway Safety Program. I'm not paid, hired, or elected. The Regional DWI Task Force is a very busy, hard-working, and successful team. We lobbied successfully for sentencing enhancement for DWI child endangerment and handicapped adult endangerment in 2011, presenting a Jackson County case. We successfully lobbied for a Western North Carolina crime lab in 2012 and 2013, presenting, among others, a Haywood County case. And this past year, we submitted 5 bills to the House of Representatives: House Bill 25, 26, 27, 40, and 102. House Bill 27 became law on September 10, 2021 at 10:06 a.m., requiring that all North Carolina magistrates have at least the same number of continuing education hours as a barber or a CNA. I have a copy of that I'll send you out. We have also campaigned for the companion bills Senate 307 and House 235, which would allow remote video testimony for crime lab analysts in district court, protecting the rights of both the innocent and the guilty, and saving thousands and thousands of tax dollars. We have hosted 1 district attorney debate and 2 judicial debates, which were viewed by over 20,000 people. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, we have campaigned and supported fully the establishment of sobriety courts in the 43rd Prosecutorial District. I'm going to send you out a map, if you don't mind. Sobriety courts should have been established in this district years ago, and if you recall, this is not the first time I've addressed this matter with you. I've addressed it now to the 2 Chief Superior Court judges and the Chief District Court judge on August 10, 2021, after a series of events which occurred last July and August, which endangered countless lives of your constituents, and which are escalating each day, with the most recent one November 8th here in Haywood County. There's currently a bill, Senate 118, which would allow Haywood, Wayne, and Robeson counties some small degree of non-recurring funding for pilot drug courts. While that's nice, it isn't completely necessary, as there are 6 types of recovery courts, sobriety courts, whatever you want to call them, treatment courts, which have been in operation for many years, established by diligent, visionary, and committed judges who volunteer their time. These courts generally have only 1 paid position, that of coordinator, and that position is often grant-funded. Sobriety courts are the extreme opposite of the type of enabling that encourages people to stay addicted. Enabling has exploded into a giant industry, and their product is more and more substance users and more of the homelessness and crime that accompany drug use and drug trafficking. As our communities become more and more saturated with alcohol, and alcohol use is being normalized in children's venues, and as the impending legalization of marijuana becomes more and more inevitable, be aware that not only is the driving public affected, but emergency rooms where marijuana has become legal are overwhelmed with violent and hard-to-manage patients who have marijuana-induced psychosis. In some homes, much of the household income goes for pot, and the parents are stoned most of the time, neglecting the safety of their children. According to the Center for Disease Control, 13% of nighttime weekend drivers have marijuana in their systems, and of those particular drivers, they are 25% more likely to cause wrecks. Tell me what steps you're taking to address that future nightmare. It's imperative that our community leaders stop saying it's the legislature's fault, we can't do it. They need to do what other districts have done and at least make an effort to ensure that adult drug court, youth drug court, veterans court, and DWI treatment court be established. Not one thing has to happen in the legislature for you to do this. Buncombe County has led the way, as has the Cherokee Nation, and if you look at that map, you can see where the Administrative Office of the Courts thinks the Cherokee Nation is. And the 5-county 35th Prosecutorial District, every district attorney in Western North Carolina supports these courts. These courts do not add to the court's burden. In fact, they decrease it. And at the end of the day, they were estimated, even as far back as 2009, to save taxpayers $27 for every $1 invested. I demand that you educate yourselves about sobriety courts, and I'll help you do that. Your clerk of Superior Court has already been part of that process, and you have a duty to follow his lead. In closing, I invite you on Tuesday, November 23rd at 3:30 p.m. to the Buncombe County DWI Treatment Court graduation. I have permission to invite you to that. I also invite you on Saturday, December 4th at 5 p.m. at the Maggie Valley Pavilion to our 18th annual Evening of Remembrance, where families of people who've been killed or injured on the highways, officers who've been hurt or killed on the highways, their families come and light candles for them to remember them during the Christmas season. So I'll give you that invitation to look at and a copy of it. Thank you.
Alan, we'd had the meeting for the drug. Is a sobriety court and drug court, is that the same thing?
Excuse me?
The sobriety court and drug court, is that the same thing?
They're called by some people recovery courts. The terms have changed over the years. Treatment courts, sobriety courts, recovery courts. They're courts of extreme accountability and compassion. Most people do not understand how they work or how long the defendants are involved in that process. You might, Mr. Kirkpatrick, if you've sent some of your participants there to Asheville. They accept veterans from other counties. Currently, none of the other courts accept people that don't reside in Buncombe County, but they're in there for a long, long time, 16 months to 24 months. They have to work. It's a hard, hard, hard road they have to go down. But at the end of the day, it's worth it, and their recidivism rate in Veterans Court in Buncombe County used to be 0%. During the pandemic, they all have survived reasonably well. Even the ones up in Seth Banks District have survived the pandemic, and they're worthwhile. If you have 8 graduate out of 10, they're a very worthwhile endeavor. And so, thank you. It is the future of what you have to do in the courts. We just can salvage some people, and it's a wonderful thing when you see it happen. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Al.
Brian, you've been discussing these courts with the clerk of Superior Court as well as Superior Court judge, haven't you?
You know, there's a few of the approaches that these courts have that we've talked about implementing. And one of the things that once we get through care up and running, some of those connections and linking people to care are some of the things we're hoping to accomplish with this. Because I agree with her, but it would be nice if we had the help from the state setting up the courts. I mean, they get costly if you go out on your own to put together basically a court system.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay, so the next order of business is discussion or adjustment to agenda. I do not have any. Does anyone else have anything? Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on. Our next order of business is regular agenda. The first item is to request approval of a budget amendment, Natural Disaster Fund, professional services for $500,000 to accept and appropriate the Tropical Storm Fred Housing Repairs Grant from Dogwood Health Trust to provide urgent home repairs to low-income families whose homes were devastated by Tropical Storm Fred, and approval for the county manager to execute all documentation pertaining to said grant. And Bryant, you want to talk about
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This is just a really wonderful gift from Dogwood Health Trust, and nobody needs to introduce Sarah Thompson except in her new role. She's the Vice President of Economic Opportunity for Dogwood Health Trust. I invited her here to say some words about the $500,000 and how we can put it to work.
Thanks for coming out, Sarah.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's great to be here in my new role. And I am actually here for Sarah Grimes, who is our VP of Housing for Dogwood. She had a death in the family and couldn't come. So I don't have a really terribly huge amount of details about how you can use this funding. I think we're very open to how you put it to use in the recovery from the flooding. We do not put any restrictions on it for you. But did just want to give our sympathy to all the families affected by the flood and our gratitude to everyone who's stepped up to help in the aftermath. And just remind you that Dogwood Health Trust is a very new foundation covering the 18 western counties. And we fund projects in housing, affordable housing. My area is economic opportunity, anything related to your economic development, workforce development, access to health and wellness, and also education, public education. So big focus on substance use disorder as well. A lot of opportunities in the future to partner some more. So with that, I hope that you all are able to put these funds to great use in helping all the families affected.
Bill Martin with Baptists on a Mission was here. He must have slipped out, but our goal will be to accept the money from Dogwood Health Trust and still work with Bill and especially Mountain Projects, because they're the ones leading the rapid response program. So we'll work with them to get houses completed and folks back in.
Okay, great.
All right.
Well,
thank you,
Sarah. Mm-hmm. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. I would like to thank Sarah and Dogwood for this generous contribution. And speaking of Bill, he's not here. I live out that way, and I've just I'm out and about in the community quite a bit, and that guy's amazing. I mean, I was out last Saturday evening. I think it was dark, and he was cutting up toward Crusoe in his marked relief truck, and they have work crews come in. It's unbelievable. A friend of mine's father, I think the Mountaineer done a story on Mr. Henson. They came in, just did a fabulous job. And as far as getting your money's worth, they just are fabulous. They have expertise, and they're very economical. So I was going to brag on him. I saw him back there earlier, but I guess he got hungry, or he had to go to Crusoe.
Had to get to work.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item is to request approval of a budget amendment for public schools, $50,000 to appropriate fund balance to support the establishment of.
Let's. I make a motion that we approve that first item.
Sorry.
So moved. Second. So moved.
All in favor?
Third.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess we do have to approve that, don't we? I thought we just got.
I think we'll turn that down.
We'll do item number 2. Go ahead,
No.
Christian.
Don't do that. Somebody get mad at us for it.
Go ahead, Christian.
Okay, we were going to appropriate $50,000 in fund balance to support the establishment of Tuscola's Farm. I believe y'all have a little bit of information on that. I do not have a lot of information on that.
Okay.
We have been told we supported Pisgah in the past.
Okay, so one of our board members, Bobby Rogers, is here tonight. Bobby, you want to let us know what you know about this?
I apologize. I don't know if it's my age, but I'm having a really hard time hearing, so I didn't hear exactly what she said.
Okay.
$50,000 to support the Tuscola Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of let us know what y'all are doing and why you need it, maybe your other grants that you've got.
Tell us what you're going to do with the money.
Well, first of all, let me just say, Mr. Chairman, thank you for this opportunity to address the commissioners. Thank you, commissioners, for taking this up and hearing this. And if it would be okay with you, I'd like to call Sherman Holt, who's the agricultural teacher at Tuscola, if he would come be with me, just in case y'all ask a question that I don't have a clue
come
about.
on up, sir.
At least I'll look intelligent by standing next to him. The farm is his brainchild to be developed to allow our school children the opportunity to experience something other schools have been able to do for a long time. To me, there's nothing more important or more demanding than that of the life of the American farmer. They have to be a jack of all trades at all the time, whether it be from being an accountant for a small business to being the CEO of their own company to managing through the day-to-day operations. They really have to be an entrepreneur at all levels. And that's one of the things that school systems need is a greater level of entrepreneurial training. And we feel like this is a great use of land that we bought some time ago, rather than having it sit vacant. Go ahead and establish that to build a farm and give these kids the opportunity. Sherman, would you like to say more?
First off, I just want to thank everybody on the board allowing us to come here tonight and address you. The one thing I want to add that Bobby failed to mention is we have a very, very good thing here in Haywood County called agriculture. It's a very big economical footprint of our county, and I have the great joy of every day getting to teach young people about that great thing we have. And so as far as us establishing a school farm pretty close to our campus, it's right across our driveway, it would be just a fundamental thing for our kids to enjoy another opportunity to get hands-on experience in the field of agriculture. I've had people ask, well, how do you teach agriculture if you don't have a farm? I said, well, some days it's tough. You know, we have to go other places to experience certain things and to get that level of expertise that they need to gain. And so for us to be able to do that on a daily basis would be very important. Yes, we have a lot of children that are in our classes that are raised on a farm or they have access to a farm, but we also have a lot of kids that don't have that opportunity. And, you know, I was fortunate to be raised on a tobacco and a beef cattle farm, and I'm not worse for it, I can guarantee that. I'm better for it, and I thank my parents for allowing me to be raised that way. And just to be able to do that for other kids, that's why I do what I do. And we really need this to take our ag program to the next step. I've seen it at other schools in our region and across our state that have incorporated a working farm at their school, what it has done for their students. And it will not, it will definitely not make it worse, it'll only make it better.
What other questions might you have that would help us to explain this a little bit better without?
So you're going to use the money, this money here, to purchase the property, is that correct?
No, sir.
We have
already purchased the property. It's paid for, and we're going to allow the farms to use that property that adjoins the school. To be completely transparent, we have applied for a grant of about $250,000. In order to receive that grant, we have to have support through donations and support through in-kind contributions. One of the places that they wanted to see support is from the county. That's why we brought this to you. It helps us to be able to secure that grant so that we can move ahead with the project.
I think Farm Bureau had donated some money. Farm Bureau designated.
We have had donations from Farm Bureau, from Farm Credit. Who else we had donations from?
Our in-kind has went to $75,000.
About $75,000 worth of in-kind contributions to this point, not to mention a lot of smaller donors. This has been one of the things that, it's been one of the most exciting things that I guess I've worked on in the last 8 years in the school board, just because I've seen something I haven't seen in a while in Waynesville. And that is something that unites the community around a common cause. You won't ever talk to anybody that's not in favor of doing this and giving these kids the opportunity and teaching them some responsibility and accountability. So it's, I believe it's a great thing. It's there. We just need to show county support. What other questions do you have?
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. As a sitting county commissioner, I'm very familiar with the agricultural community. I got drugged to the field when I was a kid to work. I'm like, I guess, Mr. Hope, who became a well-life. I just talked to a fellow the other day that got a highly technical degree. He's very intelligent. He got a very highly technical degree. Job at a very Fortune 500 company. And it had a lot of competition. It came down to where they hired him, and he asked the guy that hired him, "Why did you hire me?" He said, "I saw on your application said you grew up on a farm." And he said that was my decision, that made my decision. He said, "You've had to work on mechanical stuff." He said, "Yes, sir." "You've had to weld on stuff." He said, "Yes." He said, "You've had to get up early and go out and do stuff when you really didn't want to get up and get out and do stuff." And he said, "Absolutely." He said, "You're the kind of man I'm looking for." He said, "Do the highly technical things," but he said, "This is a multi-craft position." And he said, "Your background by growing up on a farm got you this job." I also know from sitting on the county commission representative from the state level that agriculture is North Carolina's #1 industry. I've said it many times, you know, we all enjoy a good breakfast. And I love a good breakfast. The chicken always contributes, but the hog makes a true sacrifice. And so agriculture hits everybody in this room, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, school teacher. Agriculture, you get agriculture every day of your life. Well, many of us in here skipped a meal. We've got to eat, and I think I support agriculture in this county. I know Josh Justice and Courtney does a great job at Pisgah High School. And I've had the privilege of going down there and participating in some of their events. I know Mr. Hope invited me to one of his events, and it was a privilege to be in that in that environment. And I think also what you said about uniting the community, anything we can do to do that, it's a win-win. Agriculture, you think about people who are, in my opinion, very ignorant. When they call somebody a dumb farmer, they're showing their ignorance. They're showing who's really dumb. Because farmers have to be good businessmen. They have to be good accountants. They have to be good mechanics. And they have to be good forecasters or actuaries. And they have to be workers. So really, I think Paul Harvey had one of the greatest documentaries I've ever heard about the farmer. And it's true. They sit on school boards. They sit on county commissions. They sit in the halls of Congress. They sit in the state houses. And they got a foundation that's second to none right there at home or on the farm. So this thing's easy for me. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, that farming, trades, stuff like that's what I wish we'd get back to teaching in our schools anyway. I feel like we've gotten away from that. So I know that, like you said, we all like to eat, have a good meal, and we forget a lot of times where that comes from. I think a lot of the folks don't realize the sacrifice and the time it's put in. I think it's excellent that we're teaching our kids, you know, the farming skills and, like I said, the trades that we have. So I'm in favor of it as well. So.
The board's in full support of this.
Absolutely.
And Tuscola's administration is as
Absolutely.
well, and school administration.
Absolutely.
And about how many students are we serving now, and how many do you anticipate to serve with this addition?
Through our, and I could tell you 2 weeks ago a little more because I had to present it on an application. We're roughly looking at about 150 kids yearly at Tuscola High School kids. We also will have to serve, or will serve, middle school kids, elementary school kids, adult education programs. That's part of our grant requirement that we wrote, is to not only serve our young people, but to also offer adult education or conferences, training, you know, to people that are already in the industry that need to continue that, you know, education or recertifying or getting new training.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, that's one of the things that that we want to do that might be just a little unique with this farm, is we really want to become a hub for the county and for the western region, that if we have animal science programs, it wouldn't be just limited to Tuscola, but we would open it up for training for other schools to come and participate, as well as, like Sherman said, the middle schools, and even field trips for elementary schools to introduce them. Mr. Rogers, I, like you, am a staunch supporter of the Career and Technologies programs. And the way I see it is, this is a great place for us to move the ball forward in that program. And as we have successes through the farm, it's going to make it a whole lot easier to move things forward in machine shop or in welding or in carpentry or in electrical or in any of these other fields that we look at. So we're looking to try to create a model that we can replicate over and over and over.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I know, sorry.
That's fine.
I know when we went to that event that Tommy's talking about, I was very amazed at those students that we actually got to interview. So we asked some pretty tough questions, you know, and their response and just their dedication and what they went through. I was very impressed with some of those students. So I can understand why when somebody's wanting to hire an individual and it comes down to everything being the same and seeing one was a farmer and one wasn't, why they would go with that. So again, just a big supporter of it all around, and I appreciate what Sherman and all the staff does at the school. So again, I'm a big supporter of it.
Miss Best, I'll let you go.
Our son participated in the program at the other school at Pisgah. And I can tell you firsthand how important that program is, not just that it was to our family. We farm, have cattle, sell beef, have done row crops, all sorts of things. But I can tell you those programs are very influential. I've known many of those kids over the years, traveled with them on those programs, and those experiences stay with them for a lifetime. And I've known kids who, I'll see them in town and they'll talk about how they've gone on to school and they've got management degrees and they're running their own business, and they always go back to the responsibility of the things they learned in those programs, and they are definitely significant. I did not really realize, even as active as we were with Pisgah, that Tuscola did not have its own farm. So do you have specific plans? Are you going to have a barn? Are you going to raise crops? Do you know what you're doing?
So basically our plan is we're going to be diversified agriculture. We're going to do animal production. We're going to do crop production. See, I teach ag production, and when you teach about producing agricultural products, you got to have a little bit of space, and it's tough. So we're going to do a little bit of both. Down the road, we would like to maybe offer an opportunity for people in our community to come onto our farm and buy products that we raise. And that is the entrepreneurial side of it, the business side of what we would be learning. I know just personally for me, my family, when tobacco left Western North Carolina, we had to figure out how we were going to maintain, our way of life. And so we had to, go down different avenues. And I think that's another reason why it's important. Like I said, we've got kids that they live on a farm, but they got to know how can they live on that farm 30 years from now.
That's right.
Because it's changed since I was, in high school many years ago. But for us, just offering kids an avenue of at least learning this is how it's happened. This is what goes into it. Instead of just walking in that store and grabbing that jar of milk or that pack of meat, they need to know kind of what it is that goes into it. And I think that would bridge the gap of what we see in agriculture, of the misconception of the dumb farmer, or this guy don't know nothing, or this girl don't know nothing because all they've done is this. It's a science, and it's very technical, and it changes daily.
And I appreciate what you ag teachers do as well. I know I'm not taking anything away from any of the other teachers, but sometimes you are on the 24-hour taking care of animals and all sorts of stuff. So there's lots of extra hours you guys put in. So I appreciate that.
And we are extremely blessed in Haywood County Schools. If you look at Pisgah and Tuscola with Miss Wade and Mr. Holt now, I really believe we've probably got the best agricultural teaching experience available countywide. This farm will be 11 acres. It will be, if not the largest in the state, it will be one of the largest in the state. There's a lot of grading. The cost of it really comes from, we've got to clear the land. We've got to do a lot of grading work. There's a creek that runs down the middle of it, which will allow us to do some other education, biology classes will be able to go down, and they'll be able to do some stream things down there. So it's going to involve the whole school. And I think between what Sherman and Miss Blackman have planned, this is going to be, give them about 2 years. That's all I'm going to give them, and it's going to be pretty special.
Has anybody got any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 2.
So moved.
Second.
Unless Jennifer second. She was over here. She actually moved. You interrupted her.
Did he interrupt her again?
Again.
So
I think we need to switch the motion and let Jennifer make the motion.
So much for ladies first, right, Jennifer?
That's fine with me.
So moved.
Fine with me. We're all for it. That's what we're saying.
So Jennifer made the motion. Who's second?
Brandon second.
Brandon second.
Whatever Kurt says.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
Bob.
thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out. Okay, we'll move on to item 3. And Christian, you're up again to request approval of budget amendment from emergency efforts of $500,000 to appropriate fund balance to cover the estimated cost of non-congregate shelter as well as other expenses related to Tropical Storm Fred.
Yes, this $500,000 will cover what we estimate the non-congregate shelter. The last number I saw was probably about $420,000 in sheltering costs, and then that leaves us a little extra to cover the meals and other costs that we have related to that.
Okay, does he have any questions on that?
Some of these monies, are they going to be to cover outstanding bills currently that
Yes.
we have? I know we've had to house people.
Yes. Yeah, we are getting invoices coming in pretty much daily for the sheltering from the hotels.
So what we moved with Dogwood earlier is going
Yeah.
to try to hopefully eliminate that when we get people back in their home.
The Dogwood is going to cover rebuilding homes. This is just to cover the sheltering.
Yeah.
Will we get some reimbursement from FEMA for this, you think?
It's our expectation that we'll be fully reimbursed. Of course, there will probably be some things that they exclude, but and we hope to get the money within 90 days.
And how many people do we still have in this housing?
I haven't got a count since midweek last week. I think we were down to 38.
And that's down from about 100 or something.
We were over 90 at one time, yes.
How much more time do we have? I know that here a while back, that contract,
We've asked for an extension to get through December 15th, and we have a feeling that it won't be extended past December 15th.
That it won't be? Okay. Yeah.
So then what happens?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that.
Well, I was thinking whether or not I ought to or not.
Yeah, so what happens if it's not, let me ask the question better. What happens if it's not extended after December the 15th?
Over the next few days, we plan on moving several more out of the shelter. Ira and his team, especially Brenda Morris with State EM, has been doing case management, helping folks come up with plans. And we've seen a lot of folks leave the shelter over the last 10 days or so. So there's not a good answer. Folks are going to have to find places or live with loved ones, or we've got some resources as far as some transitional housing we're working on. So there's not one answer that's going to fit everybody. It's going to be sort of, this is for these families and this for that family. So
I spoke to an individual today that's staying at the shelter, and he's actively trying to find a place himself. He's not sitting around waiting on help or waiting on somebody else to find him a place. So I'm sure there's a lot of folks that's, doing that, trying to find somewhere on their own. So he had some hope that he'd find something before the 15th. But.
And now that we know that it's not going to be extended past December 15th, I think more folks will start working on their own transition plan as well. While things were up in the air and we didn't know how long it would be extended, they've made the best they could do with motel rooms, but now I think starting to transition into more permanent housing is what everybody's looking for.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 3.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. It's unanimous. No one's opposed, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Christian. So you're up again. Item 4 is to request approval of a budget amendment for public safety, $2,738, to appropriate fund balance to cover required increased contributions to the sheriff's supplemental pension plan. That's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it, Karen?
Yes, the clerk of Superior Court collects some of their funds and submits those to the supplemental pension plan, and then they do a calculation every year where they come up a little bit short because of the courts being closed for so long. They were quite a bit short, about $9,238 short this year. So we had budgeted $6,500, but we were still a little short on that number too. So we need additional $2,738.
Anybody have any questions on this?
And I'll just add to what Christian said, this is mandated by the state.
Yes.
Right.
Make a motion we approve item 4 on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. Okay, we do not have any appointments or closed session tonight. I would like to, we will be having a public hearing, and I want to notice that we'll be having, the Haywood County Board of Commissioners will be holding a public hearing on Monday, December 6th at 9 a.m. right here in this room. The North Carolina General Assembly adopted Session Law 2021-138 effective December 1st, 2021, which decriminalizes violations of certain ordinances. This change in state law necessitates, what does that say? Nobody knows what it is. It's necessary for these amendments to multiple ordinances in Haywood County's Code of Ordinance. The purpose of the hearing is to receive comments concerning the proposed conforming and technical amendments to the County of Haywood, North Carolina Code of Ordinances. Anybody want to, Frank, did you want to comment on that? Might not hurt. Necessitates is what I was trying to say, sorry.
Necessitates.
I was going to straighten you up with that just to start with.
Thanks, Frank. I need it.
The legislature passed a bill that the overarching notion of it was to make it easy for policemen and sheriff's deputies to enforce local ordinances by putting in each ordinance if there was going to be a criminal penalty for violation of it, to put that in each ordinance section. Some ordinances, big fat ordinances, will just refer to another section for the penalty phase, okay? In fact, there's a general statute that does that. But the legislature, apparently from concerns from law enforcement at local levels, said we don't have law books out there in squad cars. We need to have if you're going to have a local ordinance that has a criminal penalty, we want you to put the criminal penalty right there in that ordinance. That was easy enough to do. The second thing they did, though, was also, well, it's easy enough to do. I read every ordinance that we have and then made changes for all of those. The more complicating part of it was, as a legislative policy, they prohibited certain kinds of ordinances from having a criminal penalty in them. So, for example, in our pre-development ordinance, in our land development regulations, the state legislature prohibited any a violation of any of those local ordinances being a criminal act. They decriminalized violations of those kinds of local ordinances. They didn't ask you, they just did it for the whole state, okay? What that required was going through each ordinance that had a criminal penalty that is now no longer allowed to have a criminal penalty, and requires me to sort of redraft the penalty section of each of those ordinances. And so, for example, in some cases it was pretty easy. We had both a civil penalty, like a financial penalty that could be assessed for a violation of an ordinance, but we also had a parallel criminal penalty. Okay, we're going to take out the criminal penalty. You can't have it. State legislature says you can't have it. On the civil side, then, you had to re-tinker with the language, and that's what I've done. And we'll have, I haven't counted them up, 14 or 15 You know. You're not talking. Yeah, okay. There's about 14 or 15 of them that actually need this sort of redrafting thing. We'll have those done by the end of the week, and so when we go up on the public hearing thing, we'll have every line where we changed it, everything that we changed, it'll all be there. The only real discretion you'll have in it, there'll be a couple where it's not, we don't have any kind of penalty except a criminal penalty, and I'm going to give you a draft that might suggest that you might want to consider a civil penalty, a civil financial penalty that could be assessed, or that the county could bring a civil action, a civil lawsuit to collect a financial penalty for a violation of the ordinance, okay? So that's what's coming. Is that more than you wanted to hear about it? Probably, okay. But that's what it'll be like. It'll be more details to come. Questions about any of that?
I don't have any questions, but the coordination of the enforcement of county ordinances has been an issue for a long time, a long time, and a lot of the violations go unprosecuted, or when they're attempted to be prosecuted, there are technical errors that are made, just because it's not normal. It's not in our statutes like the criminal or the crimes are. The crimes are set out in the statutes, the ordinances. So this seems to me like it will simplify things a little bit and also make it easier for the officers to charge when someone does violate an ordinance set out by the county.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Kurt. Do we have any other business before the board? Does any commissioner have anything? Or you got anything, Brian?
I don't have any business, just a comment. Before our next meeting, we'll have celebrated Thanksgiving, and I'd like just to wish everybody left here in the courtroom tonight a happy Thanksgiving. It's been celebrated in this country since 1619, so it goes back a long way, and we have had a very stressful 18 months, but we have a lot to be thankful for, and I just thank God that we do have the opportunity to give thanks. And I'm very thankful, so have a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, thank you, Tom. I guess everybody dittos that.
Ditto.
Okay, anybody got anything else? I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.